we have a success narrative, and the Iraqis are very good at sending those, that is really not necessarily convincing. Mosul has not fallen, and it started a couple of weeks ago. It will inevitably sooner or later, but it hasn't. And ISIS is not technically yet defeated. Everybody's taking it for granted, but it's the nature of these movements, as you said, that they bounce back, they morph, they produce another generation, they inspire kids all over the world. So aren't these success narratives or narratives of closure, aren't they a problem that we've been carrying in our analysis over the past 15 years?
Well, I think we have to be very careful in dealing with this. And I think probably people will understand it better if we bring the argument home. With fake news, you've been reading a lot about fake news. There are a lot of conspiracies over there. There are people who, since 1996, since Osama bin Laden, 1996, trying to say that, hey, there is an alliance, a Crusader Jewish alliance to destroy the Muslim world and plunder its money. And that was the basis of all the fatwas or the religious orders that al-Qaeda gave for all their terrorist attacks. And this is the same one that ISIS now is giving, even though at the beginning, it wasn't part of the ISIS narrative. So when you put all these things on social media, you put it out on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, you have that engagement. It's very similar to the people who share fake news here. And they took it to a totally different level. And in the Middle East, conspiracies are more easy to believe because nationalism doesn't really exist in so many different ways. You know, you take the pharaoh out and the whole system collapse if you don't replace a strong man with another strong man. How is the new boss? Same as old, right? As the saying goes. So, and al-Qaeda, they're genius, and groups, the Salafi jihadis in general, they understand that system and they played it very well to their own advantage, and that's what we're seeing. I am not a big believer in engaging with people trying to convince them to change their minds. If I have an argument with you now, you tell me the Brooklyn Bridge is on fire. I tell you, no, the Brooklyn Bridge is not on fire. 2 minutes later, 1 minute later, the only thing we're hearing is Brooklyn Bridge on fire. See, all our studies, all our arguments, people who are inside the bubble, there's only two ways to get them out: cuffs or bullets. That's it. And when they are in jail, they can contemplate what they did, and a lot of them, they become reformers. They reform. Some of them reform. Some of them, they claim they reform. The moment you put them out, you find them again on the battlefield. And that happened a lot. So I think we have to keep that in mind. We have to create a new space rather than arguing with them on their own space. Try to argue with someone who believes Pizzagate is fake. Now they are saying, oh, you know what? It's not fake. That guy was an actor. It actually happened, but they are trying to cover it up. That's conspiracies. Conspiracies, they go in cycles. And that's exactly what we're having over there. And that's why, imagine trying to argue with a white supremacist that the white race is not the superior race, and Hitler was a bad guy. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere. So that's why we have to create a new platform for something like this. And we have to basically put a message out that reminds people on what our identity is. And that message has to be different. The problem with the government, State Department, it's kind of like a checklist. We counter message, just put it everywhere around the world. No, the incubating factors in different places and different regions around the world is very different. Even if you look at New York City, you know, if you're dealing with the community, for example, in Queen, and I'm talking about only the Muslim community, they are more concerned about Afghanistan and Pakistan issues. You go to Brooklyn, it's the Levant issues. The Arab-Israeli conflict is probably more interesting to them than what's happening in the hills of Kabul. So it's different. So you have to basically look at what we have and what's the problem we have. In the United States, with kids and the problem that we have is an identity issue. Most of these kids are having some sort of an identity issue. The problem that we have to remind people that the glass is half full in America, not half empty. The Muslim population in America is more than 4 million people. We had 250 who went to Syria or attempted to go to Syria. Belgium, the Muslim community, is 500,000, and you had more than 500 people who went to Syria to join Iraq. And so in the United States, we have only 150 who actually, almost 150, who almost made it there. Why? Because the American dream works. Why? Because nationalism in America is not based on a bloodline. Ronald Reagan used to say, you can be a French, you can live in France, but you will never be a French. You can live in England, but you'll never be English. You can live in Germany, but you will never be German. You live in America, you are an American. And we have to remind people about that, and we have to create that space. And if we don't do that, we're wasting our time. We started this counter narrative and CVE and all these things under the Bush administration. The Obama administration continued with it, and they enhanced it in so many different ways. But towards the end, we need to go back to the root and look at that message and look at the ideology and see how we can deal with the factors that encourage it to happen, created it, not deal with the symptoms. We have to deal with the disease.